welcome to Let's Talk, where we discuss life, love, and the likes. I am Keisha.
I'm Stacy.
And this evening, we will be discussing blended families with our panelists. And so we will have you all introduce yourselves and let us know, what is your blended family makeup? So I'll start with the first person I see on the screen. May I have Shakita?
I am my blended family. I have 3 biological kids of my own. And I'm probably a little unique, being that I've had previous experience in a marriage with a blended family, and I am currently engaged to be married, which will be a blended family. My current status, it's just +1. He has a daughter. My children are adults, and his daughter is 12.
Okay.
And so how's the household makeup currently?
Currently, it's just us and my children under one roof, and his daughter lives with her mom.
Okay. The next person we have, our only gentleman, is Jenkins.
Hey everyone, I'm a little under the weather, so if I sound a little off, I'm sorry. I am a newly married person. Just a year under my belt. As I told one of the hosts, I don't feel like I'm a part of a blended family, but I don't have any biological children. I just have a son from my wife. So that's about it.
Okay. We have Gretchen.
Hi, everyone. Well, my blended family consists of foster children. I've had so far 9 placements, and we're currently working on trying to adopt our latest placement. I have 3 bio children of my own, so it's always a full house here. So.
And our last panelist is Nadej. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. My current household, I'm Nadej. My current household is my 2 biological children, a son that is 8, and my daughter that is turning 13 on Saturday. And I also I'm engaged, and he has 2 children. One is like 19 and the other one is 11 years old.
So how is your household made up?
With my biological children, and one of them visits.
Okay, awesome sauce. Thank you all for sharing. So this evening, we want to dive right in and discuss some of the growth that may be happening, but we want you guys to share your experience in a blended family, introducing kids, when is it appropriate to meet, discipline, all of those things we will touch on here. So I first want to open the floor to anyone who has any want to share like their initial thoughts when it came to the blended family. What were your initial thoughts when dating, getting involved, or for our foster parent, bringing in another child into the home?
I guess I can go. My initial thought was the more the merrier. That's kind of always been my thought. I've never really looked at it as problematic, I guess. Maybe that was a little naive of me the first go around. But I knew where my heart lied, and I would never treat somebody's child any different from my own. So that was how I went into it. And that's how I'm currently going into it for a second time around. So I didn't have any bias going in.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'm interested because Jenkins opened up by saying that he doesn't feel like he's in a blended family, which I understand, that is your son. But how was it dating a woman who had a child previously, and then you sort of adopting the child as your own, and now you don't even see it as it being a blended family? It's just natural to you.
So I was very hesitant. You know, I so basically I want to say it where I don't sound you know, offensive or whatnot, but I think I grew up in an era where you know, I'll just be frank and candid, where at least from my experience, where, you know, guys weren't too open or wanting to deal with a female that has a child, you know, and I never was against it, but I knew that, you know, it would come with some issues, or, you know, not knowing if, you know, the person that you're dealing with, if they're still, you know, still romantically involved with their child's the child's father, or if there's any you know, backstories of whether the child's father is you know, still infatuated with her. You just don't want to, you know, open yourself up to that. So, you know, just speaking from experience, I was always not against it, but, you know, I would tread waters to see how things, you know, went about. But, you know, when my wife and I started dating, I was very direct with her in terms of, you know, how I wanted to approach the matter. And things kind of went, I'm trying to think of, it's so long ago now, but things kind of went good. I only say that maybe it's because we were, you know, we met each other at the church, and you know, it was not so much of a stigma. I guess in my own eyes, it wasn't so much of a stigma, and I had I won't say a great experience with like having a relationship with my son. Is like, it was just like all he knows is his mom. So mommy has a new friend, and you know, we did like a long distance thing. So it wasn't like I was always present. Things he would always see me on the screen, you know, like FaceTime, or, you know, when it's time for me to come down, you know, I'm here for the holidays and things like that. So more than likely than not, it was probably comparable to the relationship he has with his biological dad, but I was a bit more present, if that makes sense.
Jenkins, I have a question. Have
Sure.
he ever told you, like, you're not my dad? Like, have you ever disciplined him to the point he said that comment, like, you're not my dad?
No, but I think that I've had conversations with some of my male friends that are in the same, you know, like situation as me, where it's like, it's gonna happen, you know. You know, we're not gonna sugarcoat it. It's gonna happen, where there's gonna be a time where and every guy goes through this. There's gonna be a time where you're gonna step to your dad. You know, I've done it to my own biological dad, where I've stepped to him, you know, and me being, you know, stepfather or whatever, there's gonna be a time where I'm gonna have to check him, and he's gonna come out with that. So I'm already like, I'm cognizant that that's gonna happen. It hasn't happened yet, and you know, even if I'm saying I'm ready for it, I know it's gonna hurt, but I'm aware that it's gonna happen. Like, I'm not blind to that.
So I have follow-up questions, but I'm going to come back to you
Okay.
with those, because I have some questions about that. But
All right.
Gretchen, why don't you share your experience with blending your biological children with your foster children?
Well, let me just start off with saying that the idea of becoming a foster parent was like, you know, it's been absent for some years. As a little girl, I remember saying, oh, one day I want to adopt, you know, because you wanted to make an impact, you want to make a change, you want to save. I don't know if you want to call it savior's complex, but I've always wanted to adopt a child. So my family and I, my husband and I, we grew up in Miami. So we're Edison alumni. And then a job opportunity opened up here in California. And we were like, well, let's just go for it, you know? So here we are 6 years later in the state of California. At that time when we moved here, we had 3 biological children. They were under the age of 5. So you can only imagine all of our family and friends are back east and we're the only ones here. However, we felt that God definitely had a pull as far as the state of California is concerned. One day we went to it was like some type of fair, and they had like these different vendors there. And I remember this lady's like, oh, you guys have such a lovely family, because I was there with my husband and our 3 children. This one woman approached her. She says, I like the way you guys are with your children. I guess she was watching us from afar. She gave us a pamphlet. She says, you know, there's some kids who can be blessed by you guys. And I looked at the pamphlet and it said fostering. And I remember thinking, wow, I already have 3 kids on the age of 5. I don't want to add to this. Like, this is a lot. However, I felt a tug at fostering. And so I was talking to myself while I'm holding the pamphlet, and my husband was behind me. I guess he was listening in, and he goes, well, you know, I felt the need to foster as well. Like, I think we need to foster as well, but I know that it's already a lot on you with 3 small children, because I had to become a stay-at-home mom when we moved here. He goes, so I didn't want to bring it up to you because I know you're at home with 3 kids. And I didn't want to bring it up to him because he was the only one providing financially. So we had a talk that night and we decided we were going to go for it. That was almost a year and a half ago. And we have no regrets about it. We've had babies for the most part. They stay here for 9 years. I'm sorry, 9 years. They'll stay here for like a few months and then they're reunified with their families. Naturally, our kids did get a little jealous, but communication is everything. We would sit them down, explain to them that this is ministry. This is not about, you know, trying to make some money, as some people may feel that, oh, you're doing it for the money. If it was up to the money, I would not do it, because these babies come with trauma. These babies come with nightmares. You're up 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning trying to comfort them. You're up praying for them. You're praying for yourself. Because a lot of times when they walk through that door, they have some strongholds that you're not prepared for. So as far as the blended family is concerned, my kids have grown to just love the experience. Every time there's a child that come here, they love that child while they're here. Of course, for the most part, like I said, it's been babies. But my latest placement is a 5-year-old girl. And she's strong. She's been through a lot of stuff her past 5 years. But now that she's here with us, there's competition with now my 5-year-old girl, you know? So who wants mommy's time? Who wants daddy's time? Oh, I can do this better. I can do that better. It's all a matter of making her feel normal and giving her the stability and the security that she needs. So that's my story.
Wow.
So I am going to pose a question, because I know we talked about, Chiquita said, you know, I thought it was going to be great. Jenkins said, you know, it was a great mesh. My question is this, because I want to get real with y'all. We bringing in our kids. And someone asked about the disciplining process. And so you bring in your kids. Is there a discussion about discipline before you're married or seriously dating? How did you guys get into how the kids will be disciplined? Who will be disciplined? Was your partner able to discipline your children, or vice versa? How does discipline work with you all?
I can talk. I don't want to touch nobody kid. That's not my kid. I let him do the discipline, especially because he's a boy and there's a mom involved. So I don't want drama with the mom. So I'll tell the dad, I'll speak to him and let him know what happened, and he'll do the talking, not me, because I don't want no problems and I don't want to lose my job. So
what about for your children? Is he allowed to?
My children, I do the discipline, but he do talk to them. But both of my kids respect him. So whatever he say is just that one time. Like, his tone of voice is like, he know how to communicate with them. So it's no need to like spank but I do the discipline. I'm the primary, but he have a conversation with them. The communication is there. They both respect him. So it's like a respect thing, because, you know, they have their own bio father.
Okay.
If I can weigh in on that.
Uh-uh.
For my previous scenario, I think it was never really a need for physical discipline. It was more verbal. And our approach, there was discussions in the beginning about that prior to merging families and being under one roof on how that would be handled. And I likened the same as I didn't look forward to, at that time, he had 2 adult daughters and only his son basically lived with us. But I didn't like it. Like she said, he has a mother. So I empathize and put myself in that mom's shoes. So am I going to touch somebody else's child in that way, even though I was doing most of the rearing? And it ended up coming out that we had different rearing styles. So he was very forceful, whereas it didn't take all of that for me. For me, after the kids got to a certain age, I'm not pulling out the belt and doing all that. You're gonna hurt yourself. I'm gonna make you do some things that you ain't gonna want to do no more. And whether that be in push-up position, 6 inches, whatever. My kids joke about it now that they're all adults, but that was because I'm not swinging and doing all of this. But his tactics was very out there. And I think that goes back to how people are reared. Somebody mentioned that earlier. How we all come to the fold with our upbringing, and that kind of gets passed down, be it right, wrong, or indifferent. We definitely did not share the ideals. And then even down to, say, punishment, something as simple as that, because there was another parent on the other side and the son knew how to pivot and play the one against the other. So if his son did something in our household and I treated him just like I treated all of the children, if he got put on punishment, he just pick up the phone and call his mom and they picked him up. So that created problems in the household with my kids who's watching this, like, well, why the rules different for him? How come he could do this and then he get to go? Yeah, so it definitely was tense.
Wow. Jenkins?
Yeah, there's no physical discipline in this household. There's a lot of stern, firm talking. If it does need to get physical with him not listening, my wife usually goes ahead and does that. And I agree with the women where there's another parent that's involved, and I don't. So there's I don't. If it gets to a point where I do need to get physical, I think I do have the leeway to do that. I don't think I ever want to get to that point. I think the only time it would get physical is if there's a point where he loses his mind and he touches his mother. That's where it would get to that point. But other than that, I don't ever see it getting physical. I try to have a talk with him, try to do the rest in peace, Full House, Danny Tanner way, sit him down, talk to him, and do that. I saw something where someone wrote a comment, David, and he talked about it being if you're married, you don't see it as other people's kids. It's our kids, and in theory or the concept is nice and cute, but and I agree with him because I look at him as my son, but on the outside, someone's gonna remind you, whether it's family or a friend, they're gonna remind you, hey, that's not your child. You gotta be careful, and then sometimes it's like, yo, like you can't really come to me like that. But unfortunately, it's a real reality because something can go left, and it's not you'll be put in a position where there might have to be a choice that's gonna be made, and I don't know, you never want to put yourself in that type of position.
I see Nadez shaking her head. Like,
I'm agreeing with him because, I work for the department. You get a case because the stepdad hit or mom is upset. It's just drama. Like, 90% of our cases is like that. Like, you don't want to lose your job for something that wasn't real. Like, they come up with these lies. And I agree 100% with him, but I saw Patricia put a comment, and
What was
is
the comment?
Patricia willing to deal with a case,
So
if
can
the
you say
child's
the
not
comment
yours.
so everyone knows what she said?
Hold on, I gotta go to the chat.
I think it's the same
on.
comment that I was looking at and wanted to weigh
Yeah.
in on.
Like, I refuse to touch people's children. They have their own parent.
I think it's
Go to the parent, because I don't want to have to deal with your child. Let me deal with my child, because I don't want their parent to cause problem and we going to court, family court.
Okay.
Well,
It happens.
if I can interject, one of the things Patricia said was that all the parents involved in the child's rearing, should come to an agreement. That's not always possible. So that's ideal, like Jenkins said, in a perfect world, in the rose tinted glasses, it works that way. But the reality is it may start out that way and it doesn't necessarily. I think that is, if anybody asks me what is the secret sauce to a blended family being successful, it's mature adults being involved on all sides. But that unfortunately is not the reality. And as far as saying, no one can live in your house unless they're disciplined by you, and it's necessary, whether it's physical, take it out of the equation. No, discipline is, yeah, you're absolutely right, it should be, but it does cause tension when there are differences on how that discipline should be held. So I would ask for the panelists who have others, parents involved, et cetera. My experience has always been, when I discipline my kids, say, I'm not home and they act out, and kids are going to do it. They're going to test the waters. And it's brought to my attention. I never disciplined them outside of him. He was always in the presence, in the fold, because I needed them to know we were a united front, and that whether you like it or not, it's going to be respect at all costs here. But that was not his same style of parenting. His style was, I'll talk to him, but the talking never happened in front of me, or the other kids never saw the talking happening in front. So it gives the illusion that there is no discipline occurring, and then you have different standards. But when you have a parent on the outside that's saying, don't touch my kid, I'm coming to pick my kid up, don't, and the person you're married to is key in that. It's how they put their foot down, if they can put their foot down, because this one dangled the kid. If she couldn't get her way, then she's not going to let him see the kid. It's a whole lot of things that play into that.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess my question to you all would be, what are some tips and suggestions you would give to those entering a blended family? I think everybody's blended family is unique. For me, I'm all the way 100% agreeing with some of the comments, and one was made by Patricia. If you in my house, I'm gonna get you together. It may not be a spanking, it may not be, but I'm gonna say something to you. And so my question is, what tips do you have? Because it almost seems as though I'm hearing there can sometimes be two standards being held, one for their kids, one for my kids. What happens if you all have a kid together? Like, is there now going to be 3 sets of rules that take place? Yours, mine, and ours together? Like, how does that work?
So there's not a, so in this house, the standard is, there's a conversation that's had, that's the standard. We talk, sit down. Of course, there's like stern talking, voice might be raised just to show like some sort of like, hey, what's going on? I think if it gets like really to the point where, jit need to get checked, I let mom be the bad guy. You feel me? Because I'm already coming in as a I'm stepdad, so I'm already coming in. So when like we've taught, when we do good guy, bad guy, bad cop, or whatever, she's always bad cop. That's just the standard in our household. Like she's gonna say, put your hand out. She give him like 3 lashes. It's not like it is like old school. Like she's giving them all top of marks. She's 3 lashes and then keep it moving. And then I come in and then I sit them down and then I talk to them and I let them know, hey, this is why this happened and things of that nature. And then I feel like when I do have my biological kid or whatnot, it got to go that way too. I can't deviate from how we're raising him, and then I just got to follow the course. Because even me, I've been told from like some of my friends where it's these kids get you grades, and I'm seeing it too. Raising him, and sometimes you lose control and the belt come out and you just start or whatnot. But I try to keep in mind, hopefully, prayerfully, that when I have mine, I'm able to just go that way.
So I have Gretchen, we have a question for you. You just mentioned you have the 2 5-year-olds. One is biologically yours, the other is a foster child. How does that discipline look? Are you maybe tapping your own, but not the foster kid? Talk us through that.
Actually, I have to say, like, each child is different, right, in my household. And so I've learned to deal with them accordingly, naturally with my own kids. So by the time a foster placement comes in, I have to, make sure that I deal with them accordingly. Some of them come from homes where they were abused. So already you're not supposed to touch foster placements. So that's just the law, period. But as far as discipline is concerned in my household, already there's a balance of we talk to the children, we take things away, you go to the corner. So I'm not going to say it's easy to just have that foster child follow through with that. Because some of them, they walk in here and they're expecting a whooping. There's one placement in particular, she was misbehaving. I spoke to her, my husband spoke to her, we took things away, and she's waiting for a beating because that's what she's used to. But with the fostering is different, where I'm as transparent as they come when it comes to disciplining the children. The bio family, bio mom, bio dad, they're aware that, hey, your daughter did X, Y, and Z today, and I took this away from her. She won't be playing outside for X amount of time, and she was placed in the corner for X amount of time. A lot of times they might want to say something, but she's in my household. So until she leaves my household, the rules that I have here are set in place for a reason. Now, I try my best to make sure that each child is disciplined fairly, so that she doesn't feel that, she's isolated. I'm treating her some kind of way and I'm treating my kids some kind of way. I tell my kids all the time, just stuff like, I speak to my foster placements. I said, there's times you make good choices and then sometimes you have bad choices, but then there's consequences. So we think we found a balance to where every child, when they come in here, what they can't say is that, well, she treats her kid better than me, or vice versa, because everybody gets sent to the corner, everybody gets grounded. We believe in all of that, and so all of that takes place in the household, and so that way she feels included. So I hope I answered your question.
Sorry, I wanted to address a comment.
Before you do that, can we introduce Sadrina, please?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Sadrina. Sorry for my late appearance. Did we say anything like as far as what we need to say about ourselves?
Yeah, so we want you to share like your blended family makeup.
Okay. So my blended family makeup, I have 2 biological sons. My husband has 1 daughter. I've been in her life since she's 5. She's now 15.
Okay.
And where does she live? Or where do your children live? Your bio?
She actually just moved to Atlanta with her mom about 3 weeks ago. But so that's major.
She was with you all before?
Yes.
That. Yes. Okay. Jenkins? What were you going to say? Thank you, Cedric.
Yeah, I wanted to address Cliff's comment. He said that Jit would never have respect for you. I mean, that's, you probably think that, but in this house, my Jit has respect for you. You feel me? Like there isn't no back talking or whatnot. And in terms of what you think a united front is that my wife and I beating on him or whatnot. The united front that my wife and I have is basically, like I said, if it gets to a point where she needs to give him 3 lashes with the belt, that's what her and I have agreed on. And then I'll come in and I'll talk to him and let him know, like, the reason why his mom, disciplined him with a belt. As it pertains to respect in this house, there's respect. There's good morning, hello, and that's not the only type of things that happen in terms of respect. But just to get that straight, in this house, there's no talk back or nothing like that. Cause
And how old is he?
He's 10 years old.
Okay, so
I want to say something. I think me and Jenkins have the same discipline method. I guess Jenkins don't like drama. I'm telling you, I see tragedy happening, especially with the background that I have. I've seen too much.
okay, so
If you want a peace of mind,
I think when we say discipline, we are focused on that tapping, spanking.
Yeah.
Discipline does not always consist of spanking a child.
right.
Discipline.
I'm not talking about discipline. I'm talking about the verbal. The verbal is a big, they can lie and say you touched them or you sexually assaulted them, and really it never happened. It's
so
just.
Then I would pose this question to you, and I'm going to be frank with it. It sounds, I would have an issue if I am with someone and I can say nothing to the child because I'm consistently worried if they're going to switch something I say. Then for me, a blended family would not work because I am not going to be bound by what if they said something and it's wrong. So what I am hearing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is we're not all talking about corporal punishment, but we're saying you will not even verbally say something to the child because they can switch it up on you.
I'm not, okay, my child is very respectful. I'm just telling you my history with dealing with all these different families.
I'm not saying
with my child, respect. He respects. I don't need to talk to him anyway. I don't need to go to the father or anything. What I'm saying is, especially with the comments that's being said, like you setting yourself up for failure. If you like peace, rather the other parent do the talking, like have a quiet time, go to the room, discuss it, and let him deal with his own child. I just don't, I think because of my history, I don't want to deal with any discipline, verbal or anything. Like talking to him with respect, or, let's go out, like, like a communication, a good communication is good. But when he did something wrong, that's not my role.
Okay, before you go in, Gretchen, remember, we want to hear you all's experience. So I understand all of that because honestly, the type of field I'm in, similar to yours, Nadesh, I hear about it all the time. So I can easily go into that mindset of social services without any problem, but that's not my true real life experience. So we want to hear from your real life experience when it comes to having a blended family. So Gretchen, let's hear about, what do you have to say about that?
So speaking from the child's perspective, I come from a blended family. I had a stepfather, and I remember growing up where when you say, this is my child, this is not your child, don't touch my child, you're bringing division into your home. And if you are one, you might have those feelings where you feel that, okay, I don't want to overstep because, that's her child and this child's father is in the picture. But this child needs to know that you and your wife, you and mom are now one. So whenever my mom, let's say, had a disagreement with my stepfather in regards to me, it was a discussion that they had among themselves. But in front of me, this is mom, this is dad. There's no me going back and forth with stepdad because this is your stepfather. And the respect that I have for dad biologically, I need to have for stepfather. Because when you put in these rules where, well, don't talk to my kid like that, or, I don't want him to be disciplined that way. These are conversations that you ought to have behind closed doors, so that when you come in front of this child, they know that this is still dad, stepdad, and I need to respect them. This is mom, and I need to respect them. But when you clash in front of that child and you guys are fighting, in regards to what was done or wasn't done, or said or wasn't said, you're allowing room for that child to come in and say, you know what, I don't need to listen to you. Why? Because I've just witnessed you and mom go at it about me. And obviously I have a say as to what goes on with me. And, you're an adult, but you can't tell me what to do. I got my dad. Sometimes as parents, we leave that door open for kids to disrespect. I'm not saying all cases, I'm not judging everyone. I'm just saying what my experience was growing up. My stepfather was stepfather.
Can we have, because we want to have Shakita weigh in. She's been kind of quiet, and then we're going to go.
Typing away. No, I'm saying in my scenario, during the dating phase, it was all good. I like that kid stayed with me more than when his dad got him, he'd rather come to my home. His ex-wife was the same, we were on prayer calls together. It was not until I said I do that everything went south, and her son was under my roof, and I don't know what was the trigger point to change that, but I basically had to get to the point of putting my foot down to say, there's only room for one woman in my household, and a woman on the outside ain't gonna call the shots here. So if you got a problem with how I run my household, then I suggest you keep your son out of it. And that's how I had to get to.
Okay, Shakita got straight to the point with that one. Go ahead, Sadrina. How do you feel about that? The other parent, biological parent.
I think it's just boundaries. I think a lot of this, it doesn't really have to do with the children. I think it's the boundaries and the respect for the adults and understanding. With my situation, I kind of, it's a lot of boundaries. So it was always set to where this is, I don't overstep my boundaries as a stepmom. Like, hey, I know that she has a mom, a biological mom. So, but when she's in my presence, this is how we do it. And I try to also be on the same accord, because I know how I feel when my kids go over and they're with, their dad's people. So I just try to treat her as I would want to be treated when my kids are somewhere else. So I think it's just boundaries. And when we set those boundaries, even as adults, kids are smart. I say kids are smarter than adults. They learn and they know who they can play with and who they can try. So I feel like they look and say, okay, this person gonna let me eat ice cream all night. This is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. So and that's just with anybody. But in particular, I think kids look at us and what boundaries we set. And I think the other parent, the biological parent, they look at and see, because they do feel some type of way when they remarry. But I think it's just boundaries and respect in general for the kids and for the other parent.
Okay.
I have something to say. I have the 19-year-old, okay? I have experience, okay? When it comes to the reason why I feel the way I feel. The 19-year-old, some way, somehow, kind of attitude with dad because I got involved in a situation only to help my fiance. The girls started going off and everything, or she need to get out of my business and stuff like that. That's why I kind of stepped back. That is the reason why I don't, because it could have went haywire. The way the girl was talking. And that's why I'm telling you guys to be careful. Be very careful, because I've been there. That's what I'm trying to say.
Nah, Dad, I'm sorry, I came in a little later. So the kids that are not biologically yours, what's their ages?
It's 19 now, and the 11-year-old. The 11-year-old, we best friends. The 19-year-old, who was younger.
But let me ask you all, what's one pro and one con to being a step parent or to being in a blended family? What's a pro and what's a con that you have learned? And remember, we're not saying con as, something like my husband is a bad dad or something like that. We don't want y'all to go way that, mess up your household. But what's something that you learned that you're like, wow, I never even thought about that. And this is a challenge. Let's see if more so a pro and a challenge that you didn't think about until you actually were in it.
Can you hear me? Is my mic on? Yeah. I'll start. So I'm sorry. Before I go, I need to address this comment. Someone named David. First of all, David, I didn't say my child disrespects me. So my child, it's not a point where my child disrespects me and I run to my wife and tell my wife to discipline my child. That's not what I said. So I need people to, if you're gonna write a comment, actively listen to what I say. When I say that there's an issue in terms of something that happens, how we have agreed, my wife and I, is that if it gets to a point where my wife needs to physically go ahead and discipline him, or corporal, because let's differentiate the semantics. All right. If we want to do corporal punishment, yes, my wife will pull out a belt and she'll tap him. She's not going ahead and giving him all type of bruises on his body. Put your hand out, 3 lashes, we keep it moving. I come in and I talk to him. That's how we run it in my house or whatnot. And then so you don't agree, but you're not agreeing with something you made up. Because I didn't say that. And then you said, but if it works for me, I feel like that's a slight that you're trying to throw. So like,
No.
So remember,
no, I understand. I just
whatever works for you in your home.
Yeah.
And that's where we're sharing our experience is in our own homes. Let me
absolutely.
say that.
I agree. So I'm not trying to get hostile or whatnot. I just wanted to get that comment.
Okay, we just want you to be comfortable and not worry about so much.
So moving on with the pro, in terms of the pro, I would say that transitioning from him staying in a household full of women. When I was dating, I was away for school or whatnot. One thing I would say is that when there were issues, because he did have some issues in school or whatnot, I would get the first call. I would be on the call with him, talking stern to him. Now that we're in one roof, I would say that me engaging with him, being more active, because putting him in sports or putting him in certain programs, things like that. It was hard for my wife to do because she's working, picking him up. Now there's 2 people in the household. It helps. It helps to, even though he's a bit late in the game, it helps to, get him to be more open because he's more of like an introvert. So, and that's one of the cons. He's more of an introvert, and like it's still a work in progress because we can have a year under our belt of us living together, and it's still us learning each other, being under one roof, as opposed to, been in his life since he was, I think, 4. So, it's different, visiting his house, visiting, when we're dating, just coming to the house, leaving, or, he coming into town, seeing me is different. Now we're in the same household. I know his mannerisms. I know his, sensory defects and things like that. So that's the con, just trying to get him to open his shell a bit more.
Sandrina, am I saying that? Sandrea. Sandra, thank you. Your pros and cons?
My pros is that of just having a positive male figure around my sons. Like, that's important, especially nowadays. It's just so important. I think my con would be, I'm learning, now having a teenage daughter, like I knew everything before she turned 13. So now that she's turned 13, I know nothing. And being that she's able now to teeter-totter, that she can go to mom and is less lenient, I think that's a con because she can play both sides now. So I don't like the fact that she can go over there and do X, Y, Z But that's what happens when you have, like, you have to share. And it doesn't always be the same rules under the same household. And like I said, kids are smart. They know how to get what they want to get and who to get it with. So that would be my con.
Nikita?
So my pro and con are kind of related. So I would agree to have the, for me, prior to my previous, I was a single mother with 3 kids. So the pro going into it for me was I was providing that stability for my kids and that father figure. The con was me making the wrong decision in who I chose to do that with. And it left scars for my children who are now adults that I can speak to candidly about. And I think that's what's helped them through that. But those experiences, even now I'm learning things that I'm talking 20 years of my life, I was with this man. And to hear things just as recently as a couple of weeks ago that I never knew happened when I wasn't on watch. So I think that's the con, that if you're not careful with who you choose to blend your family with, it can do permanent damage.
I'm gonna go to Gretchen and I'm gonna ask you to speak from 2 perspectives. You shared that you're a child of a blended and then also the foster parent tip. So I would like you to share like your pros and cons from both.
Pros and cons for fostering. Well, as you know, anytime there's added children or added members to your family, it takes away a little bit of time one-on-one from each child, right? So say if I used to spend, I don't know, 2 hours alone with my daughter, now I have to kind of cut it in half so that the foster placement can also get some time, one-on-one time with me. So that's one of the cons. One of the pros to fostering and, seeing children come in and out for the past 1.5 years is that it's teaching my children to be compassionate. It's teaching my children to show grace. It's teaching my children that, they are blessed in so many ways to have, say, mom, dad in the household, because some kids don't have neither one. And they're trying to figure things out while they're in the foster system. So it makes my heart really big when I see that my kid is really leaning towards trying to make the child feel welcome, trying to see if they're okay, or trying to help him with different tasks, whether they don't know how to tie their laces and stuff like that. As far as being a stepchild myself, I had a stepdad. So the pros and cons with that, let's see, it taught me, well, he was the father figure in my life for over 13 years. So I didn't have, my biological father was kind of in and out. So by the time my stepdad came into the picture, he kind of restored my feeling towards what a father ought to be, right? So the pro to that was that he stepped in during a time where I needed him most. I was a teenager, and that's the time when you need a dad to kind of keep you in track, not necessarily physically, because he's never put his hand on me, but that was just his decision, my mom's decision, that, hey, we are both going to discipline her, but it doesn't require either one of us, because my mom didn't beat me either, surprisingly. So they both had a hand in disciplining me. And like I said, the negative part of being a stepchild, of course, naturally, you want your natural born mom and your natural born dad to be together. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. And so, of course, that's a bit of a con, but in a way, it's a pro because, he was a better father figure for me at the time.
Nadesh, your pros and cons?
Of being in a blended.
I just learned how to, I always love children. So I just learned how to accept, who comes my way. One moment, my kids, step back. Sorry, yeah. With the pros, it's all about communication. And just due to the fact I've been through so much, I just learned how to, just communicate. It's the communication for me. And accepting the package. That's all I can say. I accepted the package. We both accepted the package. We both was in agreement. This is what we want, and this is what we got to deal with. I only could speak for myself, but it's a learning experience.
Yeah.
Day by day.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, she was done.
I was saying it's a learning experience day by day. You never know.
That's true. So one of our final questions is custody. How do you guys do holidays? Is there like shared custody, or do sometimes the kids go with another parent? And Jenkins, engage over here. Stop in the chat, sir. Stop it.
Oh no, I'm not reading the chat. I actually wanted Sabrina to chime in on custody, but
we going to her first then.
Holidays, custody, 1 year on, 1 year off, weekends. How does that look like in your family?
It's tough. It's changed because as she gotten older, for my kids, I have them full time. But for her, it was pretty good because we had equal time sharing. So the courts basically decided that. So we didn't really have to argue. It was already decided, and it worked. It worked. And sometimes I think that with the court, it also allows the child not to have to decide, because a lot of times the children be like, oh, if I choose to go to my mom, I'm gonna make my dad unhappy. So it makes the court decide, and they don't, keeps them out. But it works.
Anyone else?
How are you all's holidays?
My children are, I'm primary caregiver, but there's holidays I have to share children. So there's holidays that they will go with dad, or, mutual agreement, but it's through court order, and vice versa with the other child that is not mine. It's holidays. So when my children are here, his child is here. That's how it is.
Okay. Anyone else has any holiday advice?
And also, in addition, like what I did, like when we have to share holidays, let's say her mom may get Christmas, so that she doesn't feel left out, I will celebrate like really big the night before, so that she doesn't, do things. So even for her birthday, if we didn't have her that year for the birthday, like the weekend before, we celebrated. So she didn't feel like she was missing out on any of the major holidays.
I love that point.
So let me ask you all, what if your spouse are still amicable or really good friends with their previous partner? How does that work? Or do you all go to the cookouts, the hangouts? Anyone in that position? Where we, my baby daddy and my husband are good. Or I'm good with my baby daddy and we can be in the same space together.
Quite frankly, if you're sharing children together and all our parties are involved, that's that maturity that it should be. It shouldn't be any issues with being in common spaces together and breaking bread together, because you set a tone for your kids to see that. But unfortunately, it don't really work like that all the time.
I think that's the operative word. Unfortunately, I think that it's non-existent in my situation. But I think it's something that's ideal, something that you see on TV that some people would want, and it's something that in some situations I've seen that it works, but not in my situation.
In my situation, like graduation, like you still invite the parent. If they don't come, just still invite. But it's like, who goes, the stepfather or the father, who's involved? That's going on. It's like a battle. Like, still send the invite. They not going to show up. But just the, principle by inviting, okay. That's the problem we run across a lot.
If both of them attended, how would that be?
I never been through that situation because one don't show up.
Okay.
So that's
that situation is fine. I think again, it goes to the boundaries that were set.
Okay. Right.
And Gretchen?
Yes.
Girl, I blanked on the question.
What about in your case, the foster parents, custody, or not supervision, I meant. How do they, I don't know what's the situation, supervised supervision, supervised visits, how does that work?
Well, in the past, a lot of times as a foster parent, what people, I guess, might have a misconception about is that you can advocate on behalf of that child. And so I've always pushed so that that child can spend, say, even if it's a day before Christmas or a day after Christmas. Sometimes, you know, they're so strict with the rules is that, oh, well, they'll just see that child when they see that child, when their visits fall. So if Christmas is on Friday and their visit is on Wednesday, then they'll just see that child on Wednesday. But I've always pushed because I know how important family is, right? So I've always advocated on the child's behalf, like, hey, is it possible for them to see them on Christmas morning? Is it possible to see them, I don't know, New Year's Eve? And so it's been that way for us. Our latest placement, however, it's a safety concern with her. So it's not that we can't put a plan in place to where she can spend time with her family, but it's more of a matter that it's not safe for her to be there. So in that case, then I have to I have to use discretion. I don't want her to be placed in danger and something happens to her. So I kind of let, the system figure out, how they'll monitor, say a visit if she does get one around the holidays.
Okay, thank you for that. So now we're going to allow the chat to ask. We're going to take 5 questions from the chat. So if you want to ask a question to our panelists, please type it. If you prefer to speak and ask the question, we can allow you to talk. Just raise your hand. We see Vita with her hand raised, so I'm going to allow you to talk. Go ahead, Vita. You're on the floor.
Give me 1 second. I'm in a loud area. Let me move out.
Okay.
So we'll
take
come
a
back to
question.
you. So we have a question in the chat. Knowing what you know now, would you make this commitment?
So knowing what I know, I am making that commitment, but I'm making it with I have been beyond crystal clear with my fiance on what I will and will not tolerate in that area. What I'm here to provide in that area, to the extent of when we first met, I did not feel, based on what he had shared with me, that his daughter was ready to receive him in another relationship. And I asked that he hold off on making that introduction so that she was comfortable, and that we're not both being placed. We still have that. I don't know why I seem to get these men that don't get along with their exes and can't communicate. So that poses consistent issues amongst them. But what I respect, I can already see the difference. And because of how I laid down my do's and don'ts and what are deal breakers for me. I basically put out the deal breakers, whereas before I was naive and I didn't know that. So I've learned that you definitely have to set that boundary up front and give your deal breakers, and they move accordingly.
When did you introduce your child to your partner or vice versa? When did you get introduced? Jenkins, when did you get introduced to your son?
I don't think there was ever like an official introduction. I just was always around, if that kind of makes sense. Because like I said, we met at church, and then he saw me around, and it wasn't. So yeah, I know that's not a complete answer, but and it's been a while, so I don't even remember when was the official.
But she did eventually say that we're dating or we're getting married. It was
yeah. We've had those conversations. It's just the initial introduction of, hey, this is mommy's friend or mommy's boyfriend. Well, I know she didn't say boyfriend, but this is mommy's friend or whatnot. I don't even remember.
So do you think he understood what friend meant at the time?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. He knew that you were more than a friend.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Was he was how old was the child? He was I think when she officially like told him or whatnot, probably was maybe like 5 going on 6. So I met her when he was 4. So
Okay.
it was a while.
What?
Same question.
Oh, same question. Anyone else? When did you introduce your children, or when were your other children, your bonus children, introduced to you?
For me, we dated for about 3 years. We were both guarded. Our kids were little, but they were smart. And we both were married before, and we both understood like we wanted to make sure this was something that we were going to actually pursue. So we made it was about 3 years after. And the way we did it, I met his daughter first. My daughter, that's my daughter. I met my daughter first, and I think me and her had a better relationship than anything. My boys were a little hesitant, but they came around. But we definitely wanted to make sure that this wasn't something that, us high and by thing, and they get introduced, because like we said earlier, those relationships, you don't want to have to sever them. And being that we both were married before, we understood like, oh, we don't want to do that. So we waited a pretty good time. I think the kids more or less were more ready to be together than we were. So they will always ask for each other, because our dates consisted of Chuck E. Cheese, going to the parks and things like that. So they were excited always to see each other, which helped our relationship as well.
So what is the deal breaker for you and your partner when the children are capable of adapting in the same environment?
Bo, could you simplify that a little bit? What is the deal breaker for you and your partner when the children are capable of adapting in the same environment? We may need an example because I'm not sure. If anyone understands that, you can answer. Feel free.
He might be like saying not capable, incapable of.
Yeah, they just put not. They did.
So when they're not capable of adapting in the same environment.
I would say therapy. Maybe seeing exactly what's going on, having them may talk to a third party versus.
She got cut off.
Oh man.
So we're gonna go to Gretchen, to the foster parent. Have you gotten attached to any of the children? Do you keep in touch?
To answer that question, I've gotten attached to every single placement that's been here. And we're talking about 9 children, right? Some parties, when the child is in your care and you have a good communication with the bio family, oftentimes they'll tell you, yeah, when I get the baby back, we'll keep in touch. Well, you'll attend parties and stuff like that. A lot of the times, they get their child back, and God bless you, and they just move on. But the last placement that I've had, and she recently left in January. I have a bond with mom even till this day, to where I still watch the baby twice a week. We have an incredible bond. Mom is, she has a powerhouse of testimony to share with the world, but she overcame so much to try to get her baby back, and she did it. So yes, to answer your question, yes, I get attached because a lot of times they're babies, and even my 5-year-old placement too, like you build a bond with that child. It's not a matter of just feeding them, clothing them, you build a relationship with them to where sometimes they, they'll disclose things and confidentiality to you where you guys feel so much closer. Do I keep in touch with all of them? Not all of them, just the last one that recently left.
So we're going to go back to Bo's question because unfortunately Sadrina was in the middle of answering it. So we want to, answer for Bo. What is the deal breaker for you and your partner when the children are not capable of adapting? Someone said therapy. How else do you think that'll work out?
I think the deal breaker is respect. And while the child may take more resources to adapt, it's how the parents and the adults involved choose to handle it. So that the deal breaker for me in that scenario would be if my spouse is not on board with getting the child to adapt, and it's just creating this environment where the child can just run amok, basically.
So to kind of end it off, do you have any advice for anyone in a blended family or people thinking about being in a blended family? Do you have any caution?
What would you have wanted someone to tell you?
I think I gave that earlier, so I'll let one of the other panelists.
I think an advice I would give is to, I guess from my own experience, is that I wish while we were dating, while I was present, because I was away and it was long distance, I wish that I was physically present more. You know, when he had like issues in school, where he's not a bad kid, but you know, there were times where I'd literally, when I would come down, that's when we would schedule like teacher parent meetings, where I was present with it was my girlfriend at the time, to, you know, speak to the teacher. I think that if I was, you know, physically present during our dating phases, you know, the shy aspect, or, you know, the introvert aspect, would not be such a strong personality of what he has. So for any males that's still in the chat, or for males, I would say, if you are in a relationship with someone that has a child, especially if it's a boy, you know, I don't know how it is with girls, but especially if it's with a boy, if you're going to be present, make sure that you are present, you know, and definitely engage with that boy, because you know, not 10 times out of 10, well, no, 8 times out of 10, you're the front line, you're the male figure that's going to be there, more than the biological father.
Anyone else have any advice they want to share?
We have here final comment from David. Advice for blending families: set a solid foundation and expectations to all parties. That includes a child, the step parents, significant others, on how to expect the family dynamic to run in your household.
Agreed.
So setting those standards, those rules, those guidelines, that foundation is very important. Would you all agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are thankful that you all joined us. This is a very difficult topic. We understand, and every family is different. We tend to be transparent on our show in a transparent moment. I am also in a blended family. So I'm listening to you all as you speak, and some of the things I'm like, yeah, I understand. Of course, we don't all agree on everything, but I will say it is a work in progress. So continue to work. I do believe once you commit to something, you should do your best to figure out ways to make that work, whether it is therapy, whether it is finding a mutual party to speak with, finding a mentor, someone to guide you through whatever it is, because this is a difficult place you're in. Communication is key. So keep in mind, you need to continue to communicate with not only the partner, but the child, to ensure everyone is on the same page. As David said in the chat, as Shakita said earlier, communication is definitely key to this. If no one, is there any final words you all want to leave us with this evening?
All right.
All right. No final words. So again, we thank you all for joining us on this episode of Let's Talk. It was hot and heavy, y'all. We appreciate all of you joining us. Please, if you have not, subscribe to our channels on YouTube. Just subscribe to our channel on YouTube at Let's Talk Lavie, Lavie. You can also follow us on Instagram, TikTok, same handle, and on Facebook, it is Keisha and Stacy. We thank you for joining us. Again, please share with your friends once we post it, because this was very informative. And we thank you all again for joining us.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.